Suzanne is going to be talking more than I am. I know you don't believe that.
No.
But she's going to talk more about the facts and all the information. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about, really, I'm serious, a little bit about the Jardinieres. Eunice is afraid for me to get started and talk very much at a time. And so.
And I have a pull chain over here. When I go like this, Suzanne knows to shut him off.
You know, just turn me down. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about the Jardinieres, and most of y'all know what Jardinieres are.
No.
Okay. Suzanne's going to tell you a little bit more what they are. So go ahead, Suzanne.
Okay, Merriam-Webster's definition of a jardiniere is an ornamental pot or a stand for displaying of growing plants. The French word jardiniere means a gardener. The feminine form jardiniere literally means a female gardener. We're going to start with the blue rustic because that's the first one that's got purchased. And after he got it, he started doing a little bit of research on it. And after he researched it, he contacted Singleton Bailey, talked to him about it. And we believe that this is the exact same one that Singleton purchased because Singleton said that Edwards did a write-up in one of his books. So we read in the book, and in the book it stated that, of course, Singleton had it back in the 70s. He described it that it was blue and had 4 pinches, one on each side, and it's 7.5 inches tall, 5.5 inches across the bottom, 6.25 inches across the top, and the 4 pinches are halfway up on each side. And so, and even in Doty, they only describe as one ever being found, such as that. Also, Doty cites that there are 3 different versions of the rustic jardiniere. There is a white cylinder, and they know of, let's see, there's 3 of the white cylinders that they know, and they are all unswung. And the first one was discovered sometime before '68, and that's when Hartung wrote about it in book number 7. She called it a heavy hobnail. Betty Chapman discovered the 3rd one at a flea market. One sold in 2016 with a couple of flakes, and one sold at Karen Ingalls auction in 17 for $2,000.
And this is this one.
And that's the one that came from the Karen Ingalls auction in 2017.
Right. Now,
And then Doty talks about one that's only one known with a base crack that Singleton Bailey found at a flea market in '79. It sold again in '09 for $1,200, and it sold again in '16 for $2,700.
and this is it.
And that one's it. And then the 3rd one was blue.
Just let me come off, did you?
I'm sorry, the 3rd one was flared, and there's only one of them known. It's flared 12 inches at the top. It has a base crack. It was found by Gary Braden at a local auction in North Carolina in '03. It sold again in '06 for $4,000, and then it sold again in '19 for $5,000.
And that's the one that John Rogers had that is now owned by, what's his name? Clark, Kevin Clark. And so, but this is definitely, when we first found this, I posted on Facebook, and Singleton right away chimed right in. Said he found it at a flea market, and so I was just real tickled to have it. It has got a crack on the bottom, and for whatever reason, most of these real thick jardiniers have cracks. And then this one here, I know you all have seen these. It's up for debate. If you're a Millersburg guy, they're going to say it's Millersburg. If you're me, I'm going to say it's not. It doesn't have the star pattern on the bottom, and it does match exactly to a mid-sized rustic vase. And you know how us auctioneers are, we're gonna call it what's gonna bring the most money. So, but me, I'm gonna say it is definitely a rustic mid-size. Do you all agree with that? Because there's no way that's Millersburg.
We're not gonna tell you if we don't agree, you're the speaker.
Do what?
We're not gonna tell you if we don't agree, you're the speaker.
Yeah, well, I just want your opinion.
And it's a variant,
It's what?
a variant.
It's a variance?
For this size, there's two styles, one's a variant and one is. Where the
The fence
house
rustic.
with the fence rustic.
Okay, so
It
you,
looks to me like it could be a variant, I can't tell the floor.
Right.
So what you see in the variant, is where the flames are, there's a
hop
knob
in
to
each
each
one.
one of them.
oh, okay.
That makes it.
Oh, I see, right here.
Yeah.
No,
Ah.
not the point, the one right below the point, there's a hob in between each point.
Okay,
And I
But
think-
put it, I can't tell
I
for
think
sure,
it might be
depends on how it's stretched out.
Yeah.
Should I even point
let me
glasses?
get closer, okay?
Sure. See how this, when they stretch it, this hob would come up and that would be in that flame,
Right,
Inside the flame.
inside the flame, and that would make it the variant.
make it the variant.
If, I'd have to look closer, but since it's not formed up, opened up like more of a bowl shape or a Jardinieres shape.
And I've noticed that the majority of these are cracked also.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah,
Hard to make.
this one is dead. All right,
Jordaniers. I did not find a lot of information except for everything that has been found has been made from the mid-size vase mold. There was an ice green one that sold in 2010 for $375, a lime green in '06 for $975, and '08 for $425. Marigold, '08 for $300, 10, $85, and 16, $1,400. A purple in '02 for $775, '09 for $550, and 12, $275. A sapphire in 2010 for $750, and a white one in '08 for $475. I did not find where a green one had been sold at auction.
does anyone else know where they would be agreeing?
Are those cracked?
No. This was bought, I bought this privately from a Mennonite guy that we all know, and he says it's the only one. I sent pictures of it to Doty, he says he's never heard of another one.
Sure.
So we're glad to find that. Although I've had a few people say that this, what makes this a Jordaniere? Well, I think it's, if that's a Jordaniere, then this is probably one too. So I just kind of went along with it. So anyway, that's one of my favorite pieces out of all of these. You know, there's just something pretty about it. All right, Susan.
The next one I have is the tree trunk. The tree trunk pattern is distinguished by its irregularly spaced knobs and the short crescent shapes that are distributed between the knobs. And this I found on Doty. There was an 8-inch amethyst that was not flared, sold in 2006 for $5,500. An 8-inch, 10-inch flared, sold in 19 for $10,000. And then they had a purple, which may be also an amethyst, that sold in 16 for $2,800 that had cracks in it, and possibly the same one because it said it had cracks in it, in 19 for $2,000, and all of these are auction prices.
Now, this one here, I did buy it at an auction. Everyone that we had an opportunity to buy another one just recently. All three of them have crack in them. This is probably the better of the two, although this one here come from our friend Timmy Green. You all know Timmy. Me and him met in the back alley in Cookville, Tennessee. I traded him a 9mm automatic for it. So,
I don't want to answer.
you know, you gotta do what you gotta do to get this stuff, you know? And this one here is the widest one that I know of. It's 13.5 inches. And it has got some crack all the way around the bottom. So I don't love on it too much at times. So, but it is massively big. So, but that's where that one came from. This year come, I think, from a Seek auction. And the other one was actually in the Seek auction, and I was bidding on it, and a guy from Louisville texted me and he said, "Are you bidding against me?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Would you please stop?" So I did, and I said, "In the deal, you have another Jordaniere that I want. I'll quit bidding if you'll sell it to me." And that we'll get to that one in just a second. It's on the table.
How
Go
much
ahead.
do they weigh, Scott? Have you weighed them?
They weigh the same thing as the funeral vase.
That's a big one.
Here.
They don't look heavy.
Oh, it's not as heavy as I thought, though.
Because
It's just like me. I don't weigh near what he does.
Especially since he's lost that weight.
I would just you all pass this around, but you know.
No.
But anyway. All right, Susie.
Yeah, since they're cracked, it might not be a good idea. The next is the fleur-de-lis. And I didn't find a whole lot of information on this. It is made by Enwall, and that particular piece they call a grand comport, number 8165. It sold, the flared sold 2 of them in 2011, one for $165 and one for $425. One sold in 18 for $450, one sold in 2020 for $400. But I did find out a little bit of details. Harton wrote about the vase. It says the stylish version of the French iris is almost identical wherever we find it, and it is formal rather than casual in its appearance. The only other pattern that we have seen in carnival using this motif has been a pattern bearing the same name. It says, like the cut flowered vase, this vase is also extremely heavy in glass.
It is.
It's very heavy. It says the glass itself measures 3/8 of an inch in its thickness, and all of the pattern is deeply cut into the surface, therefore being 4 of the flowered panels around the surface. The edge of all the parts in the pattern are quite smooth, in contrast to many of our intaglio patterns, where the sharp edges is possible to imitate the glass designs. This again is a massive vase, and the vases are 10.5 inches tall.
I'm gonna keep it.
But the vases only have a 2 5/8 inch opening. So as you can see, that is flared out quite a bit from the 2 5/8 inches, which was the base.
Well, when I bought this, it was from a Seek auction. He had it advertised as a Jordaniere. So they call it a grand comport. But if you read about what a comport is exactly the same thing as a Jordaniere. It's literally almost word for word. But since I own it and I bought it as a Jordaniere, I'm going to call it a Jordaniere. This was the one that the guy had actually bought. And he called me and said, "Well, since you let me buy that one and did bid against me, you come and pick it up and I'll take my money back." So I finally got it, and I just think it's beautiful. It's got just killer color. And when you put that in my cabinet, Worthington seen it sitting in the cabinet. I think maybe some of the others have been in the house. It just glows. If you sit under the light in the cabinet, it goes. But, and by the way, it's not cracked. All right, Susie.
The next one is the Fenton Diamond and Rib. It says it's somewhat an odd name for this pattern. The rib part of the name is obvious. The diamond part refers to the smooth, sort of a diamond-shaped area separating the ovals of the fine ribs. These ovals were, before the base were swung, circles of fine ribs, as can be seen in the Jardinieres that are made from the funeral mold. Diamond and rib Jordanières have a 5 1/4 inch base, the same as the funeral bases. In fact, the funeral bases were swung from a piece much like this one. A ruffled Jordaniere sold in 2005 for $15,000. A marigold sold in 2019 for $6,000. So, a question that some of you may have been asking from the beginning. What was the purpose for these large, heavy Jordaniers?
Gonna be surprised.
Why was the tall swung funeral vases, they were obviously made to display flowers. But what was the intent of these unswung pieces?
Does anybody have any guesses before she tells you?
Cream corn.
Not cream corn.
Ed Radcliffe wrote a very fascinating article in 1999, and it was published in the American Carnival Glass Association newsletter. And Dave Doty got permission to put it into his website. Ed said, "Greeting from Williamstown, West Virginia, home of the Fenton Art Glass Company. Since I am a hometown boy, I felt that it was only natural that my first attempt at doing articles for American Carnival Glass center around the glass that was made here in my own front yard. Construction of the factory began in 1906, and the plant started producing glass in January of '07. 1908 found the company producing the beautiful carnival glass that we collect today. The diamond and rib Jordaniere was made in approximately 1910 to 1911. It was made in two different shapes, straight sides up and with a ruffled top. Colors would include, but are not limited to, marigold, amethyst, and green. Jardinieres measure 5 inches across the bottom and 11 inches across the top, or up to 11 inches across the top. I don't know Fenton's original purpose for the piece, but on a slow day at the shop, I found it pictured in a book advertising as a shaving paper vase. The vase was a container used to hold the used tissue paper, which the barber used to wipe the whiskers and the shaving soap from the razor. The Jordaniere was advertised in 2 barbershop catalogs. One catalog was in the Koken Barber Supply Company of St. Louis, Missouri in 1910, while the other one was in the L. Holzenheimer and Son Barbershop Catalog, 2324 Fifth Avenue, Troy, New York, circa 1915. The price in both catalogs was an incredible 90 cents each. I think you would agree that by today's standards and today's prices, it would be much too expensive to use it as a wastebasket.
So it's pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, to think about these being used actually as a wastebasket to put your shaving stuff in at the end of the day, you clean it out. But this one here does have a little damage right here. It's got like a bust in the base. I only give $400 for it. Had to go through a little problem to get it, but I got it. This green one, you all may know better than me. You all know of another green ruffle. I'm pretty sure this is the only green ruffle. It's got about 6 cracks in it, and every time I move it, I hold my breath. So if it's the only one, you know, I'm just glad to have it. So, and I think it's beautiful, and it's big and, you know, bold. So it's the biggest one out of the 3 big ones, really. So, all right, Susie.
In Harton's book 5, she writes about this Jordaniere. She says, "This is a very heavy piece of glass, iridized both inside and out. The interior is smooth with no pattern or no trademark. Around the sides are 3 rows of 12 deeply depressed circles. Partially filling each of these circles are 4 complete solid veins of glass, while 2 other partially veined filled on the sides of each circle. This must have required a great deal of skill on the part of the mold maker and equal dexterity on the part of the glass worker. Seen only in the dark green base glass, this would have made a most attractive container for a potted plant, so popular in the 1900s. The dimensions are height 6 5/8 inches, top 6 1/2 inches, base 5 1/4 inches. We have no clue to who the maker was, for this piece is unique in both pattern and form.
Yeah,
It
what-
came from the collection of Mr. and Mrs. Ed Gada of Victoria, Texas.
What,
So at that time, she did not
and
know.
what year was that?
I don't know.
Okay, so.
It was in the late 60s when she
In the
wrote
late
her
sixties,
books.
they didn't even know when, or who even made this thing, which I think is kind of crazy. So, and last but not least, let's talk about the sunburst.
The floral sunburst, made by the Swedish glassmaker Edna Glassrock. It is found mostly in vases, but occasionally a bowl shows up.
Pretty, yeah.
The pattern is indented into the glass rather than raised. It consists of a floral element with 3 fronds of leaves extending from it. Between each of the floral elements are a fan-type design and a multi-point star. Dodie has a picture of a blue Jordaniere that is almost straight up. It measures 5 inches
Literally, it's
across
straight up.
and 3.5 inches tall. And it sold in '05 for $115. They sold a similar one in '08, which was marigold, for $30, and another marigold in '17 for $160, and a blue 6-inch wide in 2020 for $75, and then another one in 2020 for $325.
Right. Oh, this is the one the first one she said. What was it, Rob?
75.
75. So, but these, you know, I think the coloring on these are just gorgeous. They're just beautiful. And they did make these in amethyst, did they?
Blue and marigold is
Blue
all
and
that it
marigold.
is.
So, all right, we've talked about, anybody have any questions about the Jardinieres? Yes,
Would any of them have been shaped into a punch bowl?
not that I know of. I know that, that one there could about be a punch bowl. You know, it's really spread out. Although, with the cracking problem with that, it wouldn't been very usable, I wouldn't think. But, you know, with what they did, they could actually even made a big spittoon out of that thing. You know, that would be amazing to see something like that. But for whatever reason, I've been collecting funeral vases from the time I started. And when I started seeing these things, and I wanted one of these so bad I couldn't stand it. What was the grizzles?
Yeah.
And the guy sitting there, and he's got an elephant foot in one of these, and he's sitting and holding on to them. And I just thought that was the coolest, craziest thing I ever seen.